Welcome to Beyond the Credits. I'm your host, Aaron, alongside Fugi and producer Trey. Here in the middle of April, got another jam-packed episode. Kicking off today with news coming out of CinemaCon, and then we've just got a whole plethora of new releases to cover. Kind of a weird state in movies where it feels like there's been about 20 new things just sort of dumped over the past 2 weeks. So want to help you sort through it, what's worth seeing, what's not worth seeing. But before we get to that, Fugi, want to start at CinemaCon, which, for you and I, that's like a Super Bowl of news that comes out from the movie world. But to the average movie person, maybe something that they're not even familiar with. So first, want to just explain what CinemaCon is. CinemaCon is an annual convention, essentially every year, where all of the movie theater owners get together and the studios walk through essentially their slate of upcoming movies over the next 18 months and really just help kind of drum up excitement for the movie theater owners, help them understand what are the things they should really be promoting, give a lot of screens, all of those sorts of things. But what it's sort of turned into is just this social media frenzy. So it's now to the point where the studios are flying in influencers and there's a lot of media there. And so a lot of times what happens is in this sort of middle of April corridor, we just get a lot of hype coming out about footage that's being shown for movies. So they'll release trailers, they'll have casts talking about the movies, all kinds of really fun stuff. But I'm curious if there's anything major coming out of CinemaCon that has you excited these past couple of days.
I mean, I think everything that they talked about, it's kind of just like they're just giving us little pieces, like hearing what the Dune footage that they showed, hearing that just through text is one thing. So it's definitely harder as an audience going through that, like the Avengers trailer. They apparently showed that there. And like
Yeah.
just seeing on Twitter and all this, what it shows, it kind of sucks because I'm like, why can't we just drop the trailer, a day after? But it's also hearing the Dune news and stuff like that, the footage they showed, it gets me really excited for things that maybe we haven't seen much about. And then also announced a ton of new movies and
Yeah.
voice actors that we didn't know were in movies. So just a lot of exciting thing. Disney usually goes pretty hard at CinemaCon out like that.
Yeah, I think I actually am sort of on the opposite position of you in the sense that I like not being able to see some of this footage because I think we and both are of the same opinion that trailers show way too much these days. So I love getting other people essentially to curate what's worthwhile to see and get excited for and what's not. And particularly that Dune footage you talked about, I think is one of the things that has sort of been the talk coming out of CinemaCon. You and I have had conversations off mic about this, but there's just kind of this broader concern of what is the third movie going to be and how weird is it going to get, because I think everyone knows that the books sort of veer off path a little bit. And the footage essentially that they showed at CinemaCon that everyone was describing makes it sound like just this epic galactic space battle. So Saving Private Ryan is the comparison that a lot of people were throwing out with that footage. And just overall, I think my anxiety about the movie is a lot lower today than it was maybe a week or so ago.
Yeah, I think everyone was worried, but I think we just like, you have to take a step back. It's Denny, it's Timothy
Yeah.
Chalamet, it's Zendaya.
Yeah.
I think we just trust that. Also, I think there was obviously those reports a long time ago that like Denny's been storyboarding this movie since he was in college or whatever. He
I
has a
think, yeah, it was like on the playground in middle school or
he
something. It's
has
been
a
a long time.
vision. He's wanted to make this movie. I feel like this might like define his career, for being honest. Like this could be like the thing that just like takes him to another level, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it definitely could.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people are wondering is it going to be a big Oscar player? So the comparison that a lot of people have been attributing it to is the whole Lord of the Rings thing, and the third of that trilogy was the one that they really kind of crowned from an Oscars perspective, and just won a lot of things across the board, including Best Picture. And because of potentially the oddness with this, there was a lot of concern there about what that would particularly look like or not. A lot of eyes at CinemaCon were on Warner Brothers this year, just given the talks of them, in really probably will happen at this point, going to be acquired by Paramount. But one of the things that I thought was exciting that came out of CinemaCon, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Paramount, or not Paramount, Warner Brothers officially debuted their new sort of indie film label. And it's called Clockwork. So essentially the way this is going to work is it's going to work the same way that Focus does at NBC Universal, and the same way like 20th Century does within Disney, where movies that are maybe smaller and don't necessarily need the whole Warner Brothers label will be able to be kind of created under this umbrella. And they announced that their first movie is actually going to be Sean Baker's new movie.
Oh,
So you think about Sean Baker, who's somebody who has been sort of this A24 neon darling. He now has the ability to go to a big studio like Warner Brothers, which I'm curious to see how that happens. But it's not necessarily going to be the Warner Brothers label. It's going to be this Clockwork label, which I'm assuming the Clockwork is a reference to Clockwork Orange. But nonetheless, anything we can do to kind of get smaller movies like that out in the mainstream, I'm excited about that, and was excited to see that announcement.
I'm kind of shocked that A24 let him go. You think about he's been there, and that's one of their guys. I mean, just off an Oscar win, you'd think they would try everything in their power to keep him in that.
Yeah, well, Nora, and if you remember, Nora was actually at Neon.
Oh wait, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
But you're right that previous to that,
Was-
like the Florida Project, and I think Red Rocket was at A24 as well. But he's been between those two for the past couple of times, so certainly a big shift to see him. And obviously, this new label kind of wanting to come out with a flashy swing right off the bat, which is exciting. Anything else that you saw or heard from CinemaCon? I know there was so much stuff that was released that got you excited.
the main movie that I had never heard about. It kind of just like I got a notification about it. It's kind of like, is this real? It seemed fake, but it was an animated movie that's coming out. It's a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
I
With
did not see this.
So it's Taika Waititi is starring as Willy Wonka. Honestly, a perfect casting.
He's starring as Willy Wonka?
It's animated, so it's just a voice role, but it follows Willy Wonka as he returns to the factory after going to jail for 5 years for turning a kid into a blueberry. That's interesting to me because, like, there's always those dark. I mean, Willy Wonka was a terrible guy. Like, he was like killing children, basically. So to
So
actually
it's sort of a dark, twisted take on
exactly,
the Willy Wonka.
but we're giving him a
sequel.
redemption arc. I like that. So that was interesting too, man. I'm excited for it.
Wait, question here. Why, if he went to prison, why would they let him back to the factory? I'm assuming that there's some sort of restraining order situation there.
I would assume so. That's why people in the comments are like, "Why was he not in jail for life for this?" He probably bought his way out. Let's be real. But yeah, that was
With
interesting.
with what money though?
I mean, he has a factory.
Well, good point. Okay.
He's loaded. But the other little small news, it was about Toy Story 5. I saw that Bonnie is going to get addicted to doom scrolling.
Nice.
So we talked about Super Mario Galaxy last week. This might be the movie for you. It's going to be the anti doom scrolling and reels.
I love it.
But I think I think that low key is a sleeper movie of this year that not many people are. I think people are throwing it under the radar because of how 4 ended, but I think we need to watch out for that one.
Yeah, I think 4 was sort of in a tough spot where it was like, how are you ever gonna follow up the masterpiece that the third one was? And there was a lot of questions of like, should this franchise even continue? But the whole bringing in an iPad as a villain thing, I don't know how that's something that they haven't thought of already. Another funny thing that I saw from coming out of CinemaCon, I don't know if you saw this or not, but this is something that Trey and I can appreciate a great deal, being the glasses wearers that we are. Real D announced that they are creating a clip on version for glasses for their 3D glasses. So, sort of one of the age old problems of wearing glasses and going to a 3D movie is that you sort of have an awkward situation where you have to put the glasses over the 3D glasses over the glasses that you're already wearing. So they're essentially creating a product that will just clip on to the glasses that you're already wearing and will essentially be like a 3D version of the 3D glasses. And as somebody who wears glasses, I gotta say thank you to Real D for looking out for us, because we have been a neglected and forgotten species for quite some time, and I appreciate them. I feel seen.
Are you a big 3D movie person? I don't know if I've been to a 3D movie in like over 10 years. So I don't really
Can't say that
know.
I have, but I will
Okay.
say that I'm now open to it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think
That's
I've
what
even been to a 3D movie since I started wearing glasses. Like over, it might have been 10 years ago. So, so I guess I haven't run into
Yeah,
this particular problem.
for some reason, and I don't even know if this was actually a 3D movie, but for some reason I feel like we were talking about Toy Story a second ago. I feel like I remember seeing Toy Story 3 in 3D. I don't even know if that was a 3D movie or not, but it feels like it's been that long. Like I remember around Avatar coming out, obviously there was a lot of hype around 3D, but there aren't too many. I will say I'd be interested in seeing something in IMAX 3D. That would be cool. But I have not. I genuinely could not tell you. Like, it's probably been more than 10 years for me. I don't even know when the last time I saw. Which is probably why Real D is getting a little ambitious and outside the box.
it seems like a
So
waste of money to me. Like, I think we need to stop pushing the 3D agenda and just kind of throw it to the side a little bit. Let's just build more IMAX theaters instead.
I'm with you 100% on that. I do have some logistical questions about how this is going to work. Like, is this going to be is this a money making scheme for them? Like, as a glasses wearing person, am I going to have to purchase these and then I just bring them back to the theater every time? Are they going to rely me on putting them in the box whenever I leave? A lot of questions about the practicalities with how this is going to work. But nonetheless, was excited to see that, along with just a lot of other footage that came out about some of the movies. There was some footage that had Twitter ablaze the day that it came out. It was, I guess it was during the Warner Brothers presentation. There was some Verity footage that was shown, and apparently, who Anne Hathaway and Dakota Johnson were kissing in the footage. So that set Twitter ablaze. And all I'm gonna say is, show me the film. I'm ready. I'm seated. I'm ready to roll. Anything else from CinemaCon, Fugi, before we move on
I,
to new releases?
that was all I had.
Yeah, always a fun time, and I feel like it's a good segue into what we're going to talk about today with what is going on in the movie world right now, because it almost makes me wonder if CinemaCon has become such this big thing that it's now the epicenter of everything that's going on in movies, that it kind of feels like everything else is like clearing out and they're not even really interested in doing a big release for these past couple weeks. So obviously we talked about the Super Mario Galaxy movie a couple weeks ago. We have talked a little bit about how Project Hail Mary has been doing very well theatrically. All eyes are sort of on next week. The big movie release is Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, which will certainly be an interesting conversation. But it kind of feels like this past 2 weeks have been a whole lot of nothing. There hasn't really been what feels like a massive release. Like, it just feels like a lot of movies that were just trying to get out of the way of everything else. And it almost, I don't know if you feel this way, Fugi, but it almost feels more like Dumpuary than January did this year in a way. Because, and for those who don't know, the term Dumpuary, essentially January, February, everyone just always likes to joke that the studios are just kind of dumping the movies that no one really wants to see. But January this year was actually a pretty good January at the movies. Same with February a little bit. But these past 2 weeks in April, it's been rough out there.
Yeah, it's just I'm more wondering, like, for one, it's a movie theaters one question, but even like streaming services, I feel like we're just dumping movies left and right on there, and like they
Well,
have
it's
big names attached to them, but it's just weird.
Yeah, and what is even odder about that is, and you all have seen some of this, but I keep a running spreadsheet of what are the new movie releases that are coming out, and I have it broken out on one side by movies that are coming out in theaters, and then one that are coming out on streaming. And you look in the first couple months of the year, so January, February, and March, there wasn't too much that came out on Netflix, Prime, Apple TV. And it feels like over the last 2 weeks, there's been like 6 movies that have come out on all of those services. And to your point, it just feels kind of weird, the timing of all this. I know that summer blockbuster season is obviously the thing that everybody has their eyes towards. And it seems like that's where the studios are keeping a lot of their good stuff. But it just feels a bit weird to me that we're in this situation where the past 2 weeks, and presumably this should be a great time of the year to release a movie. But it has not been the case in my experience over the past 2 weeks. So, what we're going to do today for the remainder of the episode is we're just going to talk through some of these movies that we've seen over the past couple weeks. We haven't seen all of them that have come out, but I think between the three of us, we've kind of covered our bases pretty well in seeing what's out there. And then hopefully can just distill down not only what the movie's about, but why it's worth seeing, not worth seeing, that sort of thing. And we're going to start off with a doozy. And this is one that I know that we've both seen, Fugi, and that is Thrash, which is the shark movie that came on Netflix about 2 weeks ago. You want to set the scene for what this one's about, Fugi?
I want to first say, why is this the one out of all these movies? Why is this the one that we both watched? I couldn't answer that. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two was just probably watching this movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, I always like a good shark movie. No matter how bad it's going to be, you're going to have semi fun with it. But the issue lies when you don't really show sharks too much. What are we even doing? I guess I would assume the budget for this was not high at all. But it was Netflix, so they definitely could have gotten it. But yeah, basically, this is a shark movie that throws you into the deep water immediately into like what was it, a 5 hurricane or whatever.
Yeah, to set the scene a little bit, essentially the premise is that there's this kind of coastal town. I don't think they actually give us where the town, or it's actually no, it's near. I think it's in North Carolina because they mentioned Myrtle Beach at one point.
It's North Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, so somewhere in the North Carolina area, and it's this coastal town. There's a Category 5 hurricane that's impending that is supposedly supposed to be like the worst. I think at one point one of the characters says if there was such a thing as a Category 6, this would be what this storm would be essentially. And I mean, the movie is such a mess that I don't even necessarily know that I could recount how this happens, but somehow the storm is so bad that essentially the town that's sitting on the coast floods. And because of that, it kind of leaves the opportunity for sharks to enter the town. So you have all these people stranded there trying to get out, but there are sharks that are swimming around. Honestly, great premise for a movie. And that's probably why this is one of the ones that you and I both watched. The other reason, and I'm not afraid to admit it, that I watched it is Phoebe Dynevor, who's the star. I certainly see her as sort of an up and coming actress within the Hollywood landscape. She's in a Netflix thriller a few years ago called Fair Play. Very much a movie worth watching, but unfortunately, Thrash is not that by any means. I don't know at what point, and it's actually a good game to play, Fugi. At what point in watching Thrash did you realize that you were in for a rough time? For me, it was probably the second shot of the movie where it shows the person's prescription bottle of anxiety medication. That was, I think, legitimately either the first or second shot of the movie, and you're like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going.
I think for me, it was probably like the 5-minute mark when the flood started. That's a problem. You can't start the problem of the movie that fast. Like, I'm pretty sure the flood happened before we knew any characters' names.
Yeah,
So
that sounds about right.
I couldn't tell you one character in that movie's name.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting about this one is there's sort of a Chekhov's water birth situation going on here, where the Phoebe Dynevor character, she's on the phone with her mom pretty early in the movie, and she's pregnant. And so immediately when you see she's pregnant, you're like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. But in this conversation with her mom on the phone, she says, her mom goes, have you thought any more about water birth? And if you want to do a water birth and, do a tub birth and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, all right, well, I can kind of see where this is going to go in the next hour and a half. And sure enough, that's where the movie lands about an hour later. I thought that the editing style of this was pretty interesting too, Fuki. The way that they cut when the shark is kind of traveling towards the human people when they're swimming in the water. Honestly, there are movies that are bad and they're like not fun to watch because they're bad, but this is one that I think is actually like a laughably bad movie in a lot of ways.
I was gonna bring up the editing because there's all the kills are actually really cool. Kind of just has the shark like jumping at the people and just like pulling them under or something. So it was cool, but they took a weird route of like not showing the sharks before they kill, if that makes sense. They were like fully submerged in water. So they're like, we didn't know where they were, and then they just kind of like bite the people, which I've watched like the Meg 2. This is completely different than the Meg 2 because they want to show the sharks. But what was the purpose of having if you've seen the movie or know what I'm talking about, what was the purpose of having the family with the 3 kids and the 2 parents?
I'm glad that you mentioned it because I don't know 100%. So to set the scene for anyone that hasn't seen the film, and please don't go and watch the film if you haven't seen it already. But there is I guess presumably it's a foster family
Yeah.
that it's like a mean mom and dad that are kind of just hoarding the cash that they're getting from the state, and they're buying steaks with the cash that they get for the kids, but they're keeping the steaks in the basement fridge so that the kids can't actually eat the steaks. Like they're making the kids fix sandwiches, but they're just hoarding the steaks in the basement.
Mm.
Which even as I'm explaining this, like you can see how this is just like a set piece to set up the fact that it's going to lure the sharks to them. But it honestly it feels like if you ask AI to write a shark movie, it feels like this is the kind of thing it would give you.
I wanna take a step further. The kids weren't getting sandwiches, they were getting bread.
Oh, thank you. All
The
right, I
one
appreciate
kid
that.
walked downstairs, saw the steaks, they were like, you're not allowed down here," and threw a bag of bread to him.
Yeah, and
But
I think there was part of it too where it was like they were almost wanting you to have somebody that you were like rooting to get eaten by the shark because when that father figure gets attacked the first time, you're supposed to be like rooting it on. And you're like, yeah, go shark. But um, it was interesting to say the least.
the last thing I have is with that family. So they're spoilers ahead if you care at all. Aaron, you kind of just mentioned that the dad gets attacked. He gets attacked. I thought he was dead.
Yeah, how did he survive that?
Basically, the kids are on this table and they're chanting like I don't know if they were saying the F word and the guy's name or like I hate the dad. And the biggest jump scare I've probably seen in a movie. This guy just submerges from the water with one arm and and then I'm pretty sure he dies right after that. But
Yeah, I thought, like you, I had thought that he had previously died. But the weird thing, and this is how we got off on this tangent, there is no connection to them and the other
no.
people in the story. It's just that you're kind of with these central characters the whole time. And then every like 10 minutes, it'll just flash to this family that lives out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And um, yeah, they're just battling sharks. One positive for this movie, since I feel like we're being a little bit too negative, I did learn a little bit about sharks. I don't think I understood the way that there was the different what was the shark breed that they brought in at the end to like help attack like they're like the good sharks that will fight I
I
guess
have no
the great white was the one they brought in, but I can't remember the name of the ones they were explaining how they're the only
yeah.
like a bull shark maybe is
I think
the right
that
term
might
for
have been it.
that.
Yeah.
And then they brought the great white in, which maybe is something that has been explored in the great depths of shark cinema. But I cannot say that too many of those movies are my cup of tea.
I would just
Um,
like to know, is it really that hard to make a good shark movie? Like, obviously, we have Jaws. I've never seen Jaws. Everyone says it's amazing, but like, there isn't another one that people are like, yeah, that's really good. I'm just
yeah,
wondering why it's such a hard topic to get right.
and it seems like it's a movie that people really love seeing. Like, I think the reason that these streamers keep making these movies is because people want to see them, and I think young kids like them. And but I mean, I don't think it's too indifferent than like just creature movies in general. Like, think about some of like the King Kong
I
movies
was
and
gonna
all
say
of those. Like
Jurassic
those,
Park.
yeah, those aren't necessarily other than the originals back in the day. There aren't really. Maybe it's just that there's just only so much you can do with a shark. I mean, this one feels inventive in some ways, but in other ways, is not whatsoever. So, I mentioned earlier that Phoebe Denver is in this. I hope that she got a big fat stack of cash for this, and can go and make great movies after this with other things because otherwise, I'm not really 100% sure what we're doing with this.
Well,
But I'm sure
I have a
I'm sure a
quick
bunch of people will watch
message.
it.
I have a quick message to send to Phoebe if she's listening to this. Get away from Netflix. Like, don't fall into the Millie Bobby Brown. Don't sign your life away to Netflix. Let's take a step away. Let's get in some theater releases because she is a star. Because I loved her in Fair Play, like really good
Yeah.
in that. And I think obviously if she didn't get the bag for this, that's a step back that we don't want. But hopefully she makes some good choices.
Yeah, I don't have too much concern there because she was in a couple of movies last year. I don't know if you ever saw Anniversary, but it is a kind of deranged movie, but it was a theatrical movie and also small indie movie called Inheritance that is quite good and worth recommending. I'm looking at her. I don't know that she has too much in development right now. So, Phoebe, if you're listening, which I'm sure that you are, make sure you take heed to Fugi's words of wisdom and stay away from Netflix. I guess kind of keeping on the Netflix tune of things. Currently, if you open up Netflix, the number one movie on Netflix at the moment is called Roommates. And it is the new film directed by Chandler Levick. If you remember, Fugi, a few years ago, there was a movie called I Like Movies. I don't know if you have seen that or have heard of that, but sort of a kind of promising young director, sort of actually a weird situation. She has made 3 movies, though I Like Movies from a few years ago, but her other 2 movies both come out this weekend, which is kind of odd. The one I just mentioned, Roommates, is on Netflix. The other one is called Mile End Kick or Mile End Kick, something like that. And it's essentially, I don't know, kind of it's a music critic. It seems kind of like a modern version of Almost Famous, but a lot of people are excited about that. I think it only is out in New York, LA. The movie that's on Netflix is called Roommates, and Roommates is the new Sadie Sandler, I think is her name. Vehicle, I guess you could call it. And it stars a bunch of kind of up and coming people. So I mentioned Sadie Sandler. She's obviously known as the daughter of Adam Sandler and is sort of becoming one of those Netflix faces herself over the past couple of years. Also has Chloe East, Natasha Lyonne, Nick Kroll, Billy Burke. A lot of also just random cameos that pop up throughout. So Megan Thee Stallion is in it. Steve Buscemi is in it. It's sort of a weird situation because you'll be watching it and like every 2 seconds there'll be kind of someone that you know that'll just be like the bartender in the back of the scene and you're like, oh, I know that person. Anyway, the movie essentially is about 2 roommates that show up at college. They think that they're going to hit it off, and then it turns out that they just end up kind of hating each other, and it sort of kind of spirals into them trying to one up each other and just being terrible to one another. Um, I don't think you have seen this movie, Fugi. I have no idea if you have any interest in seeing this movie. But found the whole thing kind of bizarre in a lot of ways. I actually don't think that any of the bizarreness is really in Sadie Sandler. I think that she actually gives a pretty good performance. Have you seen her in anything? I know she's been in a couple of other Netflix
Well,
movies.
the question I was going to ask was, does Adam Sandler show up?
So he is credited in the movie, but I did not notice him showing up.
Yeah, because she was in the You Were
And
So Not.
he is a producer on the
Okay.
movie. I should say that. Yeah,
I've seen her in the Bar Mitzvah movie with Adam
you did see
Sandler,
that.
and she was
Okay.
also in Jay Kelly.
Oh,
She was, I mean, she's his daughter, the one that
she's his
played
daughter.
tennis.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
why I
I
was
do remember
asking
that.
about, because I don't think she's been in much without Adam Sandler in it. Neither is her other daughter or his other daughter.
So that's what I'm wondering. Like, is this Netflix? We know that Adam Sandler has kind of a big overall deal at Netflix. Is this him saying to Netflix, if you want to keep working with me, you're gonna have to do this for my daughter? Or is this Netflix cozying up to Adam Sandler and greenlighting these movies, making sure she's cast in these movies so that he continues to like Netflix the way that he does? I wonder what way that's going.
Well, 2 years ago was the Bar Mitzvah movie. Last year was Jay Kelly. This year is her. So they're all getting a star in their own movie each year, which is interesting.
Was she the one that was in the Bar Mitzvah movie or
No,
not?
it was the other daughter. That's what I'm saying. The other daughter had the 2 years ago. Adam Sandler was the star of Jay Kelly, and then the other daughter's this one. Sadie, is that her name?
Yes. Oh, so
Yeah.
it's not the same.
No, she's
didn't
in.
realize.
Yeah, the main girl is the youngest daughter. So Happy Gilmore 2,
Yes.
it's the daughter in that.
Yes, I see. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think she was bad. The problem with this movie is it's just it's a lazy framing device in a lot of ways. So I'm gonna spoil roommates for anybody that out there is interested in seeing this movie because I think it's too good to not talk about in depth. But essentially, the setup for the movie is you open and there's two kind of girls that aren't getting along, and they request to. I think one girl is like dumping the other girl's clothes out of the dorm room and making a big scene. They hate each other. They go to, I guess, like the dean of the school's office to request like a roommate change. And that person is Sarah Sherman, who is of Saturday Night Live fame and does a lot of really funny sketches on SNL at this point in time. But she essentially sits them down. She's like, "Hey guys, you think you have it bad? Let me tell you a story about two roommates that really hated each other." And so then it goes way back in the past, and she's essentially like the narrator that's telling the story about the Sadie Sandler character and the Chloe East character and about how they got to the point that they hate each other so much. Um, the first like hour and a half movie is probably just them kind of like starting to like each other a little bit and going through college life and going to their first party and all that kind of stuff that you would expect from a movie like this. But the last 30 minutes of the movie go off the rails in ways that kind of don't make sense in a lot of ways when you think about who's involved with the project. So the big like reveal of the movie when you get to the end is the Chloe East character is just kind of being a demon to the Sadie Sandler character. But at the end of the movie, she finds out that the Chloe East character is a Nepo baby. And that is what makes the Sadie Sandler character like absolutely hate her because she's essentially the whole movie. She's been making it sound like she's poor and like came from nothing and she needs help to get through life and all of these things. And so then the Sadie Sandler character like just goes off on her for the fact that she had everything handed to her whole life. And in the movie, the Chloe East character is she's the daughter of the CEO of Staples, but they keep calling her a Nepo baby. And she just, so I'm like, presumably everyone is aware of what's going on when this is happening, right? Like you have the daughter of Adam Sandler that is attacking this other girl for being a Nepo baby. It, it just seems kind of bizarre to me. And if that seems bizarre, just wait till you see where this is going. So when that happens, and essentially she outs her as this, like in front of this big presentation in front of the whole schoolroom auditorium. So then the Chloe East character goes and earlier in the film, Sadie Sandler's brother comes out as gay to the Chloe East character. And so the Chloe East character then goes to his high school and on a big poster announces to the whole high school that he likes this other boy in his class. And so then that escalates Sadie Sandler's hatred towards this girl even more, that she goes and she burns down the dorm room. And then the movie ends with her getting thrown in prison and having to serve prison time with Megan Thee Stallion. So I've just got a lot of questions in general about what messages we're trying to send, how bought in Sadie Sandler is to the idea that she's a Nepo baby herself. Just a lot of question marks going on.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting movie. Don't think I'm gonna check that one out. But it kind of, when you were describing it at first, it kind of gave me vibes of Do Revenge from 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Just sounds like it was a much worse version of that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I saw people on Letterboxd kind of saying it's Do Revenge meets Mean Girls, that sort of thing. You can feel that that's the vibe that they're going for. And I'm not going to dog on the director at all because I think you can clearly see that this is a movie that she just took on to get a paycheck after doing kind of two passion projects. But man, I just wish that if Netflix were going to spend money on movies that they would be something a little bit better than this. You could probably watch it and have a really decent time. It's not unwatchable in any regards, but I don't think it's necessarily worth recommending either. But I would watch Sadie Sandler in other movies. I didn't think she was the worst part of the movie. I just thought that there were a lot of question marks about other things in that regard. So, as you can see, listeners out there, you can kind of see a theme going on the quality of movies. I will say there are some that are worth recommending that we're gonna talk about here in a little bit. But before we get to that point, and I don't even know 100% sure what you think of this movie, Fugi, but I know that you watched the new Mark Wahlberg streaming movie, Balls Up. You want to recount for us what's going on over there on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, so I don't have it's from Peter Farley, very well-known director,
Oh,
which didn't
yeah,
know
yeah.
that. So that's where a lot of people
He
there was a
typically directs
buzz.
films with his brother, I believe.
This one is just him. Um, he's just not credited, if that makes sense. He might have helped him, but interesting because I saw The Green Book was obviously the biggest movie that's an Oscar winner, but without looking
Well,
at the
Dumb and Dumber is probably the biggest
well,
of
yeah, but
his,
I'm talking
right?
about like Oscar. I mean,
Gotcha.
that's pretty big. Basically, this movie, these Mark Wahlberg and Paul Walter Hauser, love him. He's great. They are like executives for a company, and they're trying to pitch an idea for the World Cup. And their idea is a condom that goes over your balls. Hence the
Nice.
title of the movie, Balls Up. Now, does that really have any meaning in the movie? Not really. That was just like this guy wanted to make a joke about that. And like throughout the movie, it appears, there's a scene where Mark Wahlberg literally has to shove the entire condom with cocaine down his throat and swallow it. And
Down his throat?
we watched that as an audience
Why is he putting it down his throat?
because they were trying to smuggle drugs. Basically, it
Oh.
starts off as a
Also,
world.
well, what does it have to do with the World Cup? maybe you're about to
Yeah.
get there.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
they pitch the idea and it like goes very poorly. They end up getting fired. Then the company's all mad at them, so they send them to the World Cup game. So Mark Wahlberg is like sitting in the crowd and they see like this sausage on the sideline, which basically the company sent the sausage there to like mock them. And he starts making like a bunch of jokes. Basically, the premise of the movie: Paul Walter Hauser and Mark Wahlberg chase the sausage across the field. The Brazilians are about to score in the World Cup, and he kicks the ball and it hits Mark Wahlberg. That prevents a goal. So then the entire nation of Brazil hates both of them because they lost the World Cup because of that. That's how the World Cup comes into play.
That
Wait,
sounds
so
like a
they
new low.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm trying to understand. So they're executives, they come up with this. Is this before they ruin the World Cup for Brazil, or that's how
That
it
was the very
ends?
beginning. They like go on some like pitch thing, and it goes really poorly. The company ends up hating them, so they get fired. And for some reason, they got sent tickets to the World Cup to show the new like it was basically they got a new condom brand to sponsor the World Cup. It was kind of like a
Oh.
rub in the face, like we found something better. And then they're drunk and they get mad, so they start charging the sausage and prevent a goal. And
So
yeah.
that sets off the course of the rest of the movie?
Yeah, which that's what I was gonna say. Actually, when that happened, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like I was interested. You have an entire nation. They're in Brazil. Like the World Cup is in Brazil. They just lost. That's interesting. But then they don't stick with that. They kind of go on a tangent where it becomes like a drug cartel type movie. That's how the drugs come into play here. They put it into the condom and they swallow it to try to get it across the border, basically.
But how do they get involved if they're ad executives? How do they get in? They're just desperate for money, and so they start
Well,
getting into the drug trade?
well, they had to, the entire nation hated them. They were like about to get killed. So these people were like, kind of like accepted them in a way, but their acceptance,
The
the
drug dealers
yeah,
accepted
the
them?
way they accepted them was like, you kind of have to smuggle drugs. And then it
So they're like,
basically,
we'll protect you from the masses.
but then
Okay.
that ended up going like south, and then they ran away from that. Then they ran into another problem. They didn't stick with the if they would have stuck with like the whole nation of Brazil hates them and they're on the run from Brazil, that would have been cool to me. They went off on too many tangents, and also it just wasn't funny. Like if you're gonna do a movie like that, you have to at least make it funny.
So essentially, the premise of the movie is like the first, like just the first little bit of the movie, then,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
why
then
I'm
it.
really confused why the movie is called Balls Up. Like, obviously, that it starts with that, but, like, they just make little jokes here and there about this. It's like they were really trying to push that idea of a condom onto the world. You
Which
know?
I've got, I mean, we don't, this is not the time nor the place to do that, but I have a lot of questions just in general about the product itself. It doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll explore that a different day.
Yeah, but there was a scene that I want to talk about because I think Paul and Mark Wahlberg are kinda different builds in a way. There's a scene
Not in a way. They are very different
yes,
builds.
so there's a scene where every person in Brazil is running after them, and they're both running, and it is the funniest thing because it looks like Paul is going full force at this run, and Mark Wahlberg's just, like, jogging, but it looks really bad because, like that's why I think that was a bad scene to put in because it literally looked like one guy was sprinting and the other guy was, like, walking, and it was edited really bad, but like I said, good movie executed poorly. Could have been a good movie. I'll phrase
Do
that.
do we have hope that Mark Wahlberg is ever going to make a good movie again?
No. No, he's too far gone.
Yeah, it seems like the ship has sailed in that regard.
I feel like he's just trying to I don't even know if it's money at this. He doesn't need money though. I really
So
don't know the
apparently, and this is not so. If Mark Wahlberg's lawyers are listening to me, I will state that I don't know all the details in this regard, but I have heard that I think it has something to do with like his routine. So he has this weird routine, and his thing is that he doesn't want to break this routine at all. Like even when he's filming, I think he gets up at like 4 a.m. and then he works out, and then he like eats a meal, and then he plays 18 holes of golf like as soon as the sun comes up, and then he comes back and he works out again, and then he like spends a little bit of time with his family, and then he works out again, and then he eats another meal, and then I think he has like a 3 hour period where he can do like work, quote unquote, and then he works out again, and then he plays golf. He goes to the driving range, eats a meal, and then spends more time with his family, and then he goes to because he gets up at like 4 or 3 a.m. So he goes to bed at like 7 or 8 o'clock. And essentially, apparently, what it sounds like is he's just very entrenched in that routine. And the only sorts of filmmakers that are going to put up with that sort of thing are the kinds of movies, I guess, like this, that you just kind of build the whole movie around him. But I mean, because I know last year, your favorite movie of the year was Flight Risk, if I remember correctly. So
this was better than that. I will a lot better. So if you
I
like
don't
Flight
know if
Risk, give
that's
this one a
saying
check.
too much, but
Yeah, it was the ending. I will say I'm not gonna like spoil the ending in case either of you are gonna see it. Ending is really good. It moved up because of it.
good as in emotional, good as
No,
in makes sense for
no,
the characters, funny.
no. It was funny.
Okay. All right.
Definitely not. There was no. I don't know. There was no character. If you're looking for that, this is not that. There technically is, but it's just very shallow.
So, people listening, worth seeing, not worth seeing. If you like a comedy worth seeing,
See,
where would you
that's
put it?
the issue because like I thought this was a comedy, but I didn't laugh once.
That's
I think it
problematic.
might be a type of comedy maybe that's just not for me because obviously they were trying certain jokes and it just didn't land. The balls up joke failed a lot of times, but I mean if you like Mark Wahlberg nowadays, sure, give it a check, I guess. But it was a Prime original. I don't think I expect too much from that.
Yeah, and I also think that is saying a lot. The fact that it went straight to Prime because, everyone saw this with CinemaCon this past week to tie things up to the beginning of the episode. Amazon's making a big push for theatrical movies right now. Like they're releasing a lot of movies in movie theaters this year. So for them to put this directly on Prime, I think says something about their feelings towards the movie because it isn't like Netflix where everything's just going to the service immediately. Like they are differentiating between what is a movie theater movie like Project Hail Mary and a movie like this that's going straight to Prime. So unfortunate, but I also am not super surprised given the what I knew about the movie before today.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it a watch unless you're really desperate.
So another streaming movie that I saw, and I know you were curious in Fugi, but I don't think you had the chance to see it, was the new Jonah Hill directed movie Outcome. And this movie is starring Keanu Reeves. Cameron Diaz also appears in the film. Martin Scorsese also shows up in the movie for a little bit. This is probably one of the most baffling movies that I've seen in a long time, in the sense that I I don't understand how you could get as many talented people in the room together, especially Jonah Hill. I if I remember correctly, you really liked his last directorial
Mid
feature,
mid
right, Fugi?
nineties
Mid
is
'90s,
really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So the film stars Keanu Reeves, and Keanu is playing a character by the name of Reef Hawk. And essentially, Reef Hawk is sort of like a stand-in for the last great American movie star. He's essentially just like a super famous person. So I kept thinking him as sort of a stand-in for like a Tom Cruise, whatever you want to say. And he's essentially just obsessed with what everyone thinks about him. So if you want to know like how on the nose this movie is, probably 9, 10 times in the movie, we just see Keanu's character Googling his name to see if there are any like negative publicity articles that are coming up about him. But essentially, the movie follows his agent, manager, whoever the person is, who's Jonah Hill. And he essentially just comes to him one day and he's like, hey, somebody is trying to extort you. But we don't really know what we're being extorted for. We just know that someone has a video of you doing something bad. And so he like just kind of has to go on a tour of like apologizing to all the people that he's ever done wrong in his life. Kind of sounds similar to what you're saying with that Balls Up movie a little bit, because it's a comedy and I didn't even like remotely think about laughing once in the movie. Um, it has ideas, but the way that they're executed, like it's very much like we're going to show, like we're going to tell all the time, and we're not just going to show you what we have in regards to the ideas we want to get across. The best part of the movie by far, Martin Scorsese plays his sort of like ex-manager from when he was a teenager, and he gives a 5-minute performance that is like in a completely different movie, because this movie is actually good that Martin Scorsese is in, and it is incredible. I hope at some point that clip just starts going around online, because it's worth seeing much more than the actual movie. But the movie just looks like it just looked like a TV episode to me in a lot of ways. And just the whole thing felt really uninspired. I don't honestly, I don't even want to talk about it much more, because it's just not worth checking out in any regard. Um, and it's disappointing because I know Fuki, you've said that Jonah Hill has done promising stuff in the past, so I'm really not sure what happened here.
Yeah, that's interesting too that you said it was supposed to be a comedy. It's because he is probably one of my favorite comedic actors. Like,
Yeah,
so it makes me think maybe he can't. He's really funny, but maybe he can't get that across. Was he a main character or was he in
yeah,
it?
he was. I mean, he was essentially like the number two with
Was
Keanu
he
Reeves.
delivering comedic lines though, or was that more for Keanu?
No, it was definitely he Jonah Hill
Interesting.
definitely was delivering some of those. But that's a good point, because it reminds me that Keanu Reeves has sort of taken this interesting pivot where unless there's been another movie he's been in, I believe the last two movies he's been in have both been comedies. So it's this movie, and then there was the Aziz Ansari movie in the fall of last year, Good Fortune, where Keanu Reeves was sort of playing this like fallen angel character. I think that movie is better than this movie, but my takeaway from these two things, and I think anyone who's seen Keanu Reeves in anything, he's not a comedian in any regards. And I don't know why people continue. I don't know if this is just a phase that he's having. He's like, I just want to kind of do something different, but we got to stop casting him in comedies. It's just it does not a match made in heaven, to say the least. He's an action star, not a comedic actor.
I genuinely don't think I've seen a movie that Keanu Reeves is on. So
You
I have
haven't seen
nothing to
a
say.
single movie that
I
he's in?
I don't think so. Probably like
know,
voice act. I mean, Shadow and Sonic. That's it.
now that Fugi says that, I don't know if I've seen one either. I'm thinking about it. Because I'm not a huge John Wick
Yeah,
guy.
I haven't seen those.
I don't think I've seen any of the John Wicks. I'm trying to
Well,
think
if
what
you need
else.
since we've been talking about so many bad movies, if you need a good Keanu Reeves movie to watch, go tonight watch Point Break from the 90s, I think it is. It's him and Patrick Swayze. In fact, I'm looking right across from me right now at a poster of Point Break on the opposite wall of me. Great 90s action movie. Worth recommending, probably more so than anything that we'll talk about in today's episode. But outcomes, steer clear. Not really sure what Apple TV is doing with their movie slate these past couple of years. Obviously, they made the Killers of the Flower Moon movie a few years ago, and that was awesome. But outside of that, it's been pretty slim pickings. All right, I feel like we need a good movie to get us through here. And I don't know if this movie's going to be good or not, but Trey, I know you had the chance to watch Exit 8, which is a new Japanese movie that Neon is releasing, I believe, that I've been excited to check out. Haven't got a chance to yet. The way that you're smiling right now makes me not hopeful that this is going to be a good movie.
Well, I mean, it was good. I'm glad it was only an hour and a half. Let's put it that way. I was gonna go see The Mummy this week, and I saw that it was 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that kind of put me off, and maybe a little too long of a runtime. But yeah, Exit 8 it's a Japanese horror movie, and it's actually based on a video game that is actually not that big of a video game. I'm kind of surprised they made an adaptation of it.
Have you played the video game at all?
I have not. I've seen clips of it. It seems like a very kind of straightforward game, and the movie kind of just adapts the game fully. Basically, the main character is trapped in kind of like a loop in an underground subway station, and he has to go through all these hallways that are seemingly identical, but they all have like little quirks or little abnormalities to them that you have to find. And essentially you start on level 0 and you have to work your way up to level 8 to escape this underground. It's kind of like a purgatory, cursed, haunted subway system. And
it kind of sounds like Backrooms in a way.
Well, it is kind of similar to what I haven't seen any of the Backroom stuff, but it's kind of similar to that, what I think that vibe is like. But yeah, I mean, it runs into a few interesting characters over the course of the movie, and it's kind of got it's kind of got a message about society at the end that it's kind of trying to say, I think. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised, and maybe this movie will like spark a lot of adaptations of these like lesser known video games, but I'm kind of surprised there's not more of these actually, because I mean, this movie had about a $4 million budget, and it's made $40 million globally so far.
Wow.
So, I mean, if studios can just take like these little lesser known games that have kind of cool plots to them,
yeah,
and just, make a profit like that, I think you could see a lot of, lesser known video games like this that have kind of fun plots. I will say, anybody who's turned off from saying it's a horror movie, there's a few like creepy, scary moments in it, but I would say it's more of just like a drama, kind of a mystery, like trying to figure out a puzzle rather than pure horror. There's not a whole lot of just scary moments in it. So if that's the kind of thing that puts you off, I wouldn't be worried about that. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's in Japanese, right?
Yeah, it's in Japanese. Yes. So I had subtitles, obviously, but I don't know if it's the dubbed version or not, but yeah.
I would assume it's probably not dubbed now, but with all the money you said it's making, they probably will look into doing it dubbed, I would say.
Yeah, I'm usually not a dub type of person. I like the subtitles and having the original voices, but that's just preference.
I'm kind of surprised that I'm assuming a lot of that money has been made internationally then, because it feels like it hasn't been showing too many. Like, I know it wasn't even around Yufugi at all, and it's only playing in like one theater here around me.
Yeah, I assume a lot of that is around the globe, because it's just now showing in the US for the first time this week, but I think it's been showing in Japan and maybe some other countries. It came out in 2025, so ever since last year, it's been showing globally.
Well, at least sounds like something that has a little bit more promise than some of this other streaming slop that we have been talking about. I'm going to continue on my trek of movies that are kind of rough. I promise, folks, if you stick to the end, we're going to get to some stuff that is very much worthwhile. Probably the most disappointing movie that I have seen this year, I had the chance to see yesterday. It was a fall festival movie from 2025, directed by none other than Steven Soderbergh, who anyone who's been around movies for a long time knows that this is a guy that's given us some legendary movies. So all the Oceans movies, Aaron Brockovich, Out of Sight, Contagion. I mean, just go through his filmography. He's one of the great movie makers in Hollywood, but he's been making a lot of output over the course of the past couple of years. So, man, it feels like he's had like 3 movies in the past like 12 months alone. And it was kind of odd that this movie, The Christophers is the name of the movie, was released as a world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival last fall. No one had really heard about it too much before then. And now all of a sudden, it's just kind of randomly releasing in this April corridor here without much noise. And I don't really think that it's even in that many theaters, if I'm being honest, because I know it wasn't even around you to have a chance to see Fugi. So this movie stars Ian McKellen as the main character. Michaela Cole is the I guess co-lead is probably the best title for her. Also stars James Corden, who I know people often see as a cursed figure if he is in a movie. The log line reads as follows: desperate for an inheritance, 2 siblings conspire to forge their father's unfinished paintings so they become valuable after his death. So one of those siblings is James Corden. His other sibling is played by Jessica Gunning. And the father that they reference is Ian McKellen. And so the movie, 90% of it is just Ian McKellen. He's sort of this once renowned artist figure who then sort of became a kind of Simon Cowell reality critic on a kind of artistic reality show. And then it seems like he kind of got quasi canceled at some point. So he's just kind of living as a recluse in his apartment, and his kids hire the Michaela Cole character to kind of come in and pretend to be his assistant, but in reality go and try to find these unfinished paintings that are in his attic. This movie just takes way too long to get going, in my opinion. I think whenever you get to the end of it, there are some really interesting ideas about separating the art from the artist and what makes great art. And is anyone capable of making great art? Can that only come from a world renowned person with a big name and all of that? But for the movie's an hour, 45 minutes, and the first like hour and a half, it just moves at a glacial pace. The Quite frankly, I couldn't really even understand a lot of it. Ian McKellen is like, as you would expect him, like he has sort of his thick English accent, but he's kind of just mumbling and bumbling through so much of the movie that there was a lot of it that I completely missed what he was even saying. I'm not going to put this as too much of a knock against Steven Soderbergh. He puts out so many movies that not all of them can be great, but I've seen a lot of people talk pretty highly about this movie, and to not really click with it almost at all was disappointing to say the least.
Is the Ian stuff, is that about him as a whole, or is that the way his character was? Because I'm wondering how he's moving at 86. Because he's about to be in a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely getting up there in age, and he's intentionally playing a person who is kind of nearing the end of his life. But I think my thing with it, and I was thinking about this a little bit. The movies that you're referencing that he has coming up, he's not like the focal point of the movie, talking 95% of the time in those movies. He is obviously an important character in the movies, but a lot of the other people are maybe helping move that story forward. The fact that this movie, for 90% of it, is essentially just a two-hander between him and Michaela Cole, it's kind of the part where it lost me a little bit. I had never seen her in anything. I think she's also in Mother Mary, which is coming out soon. So hopefully we'll see her again. But I was just not too interested. Obviously, it was shot on a shoestring budget, and it's great that he's putting out movies like this. But I think anyone who doesn't have the time of day for him as a director, and for kind of this odd subject matter, is going to just completely check out of this movie. I was really hoping that I would love it and wanted it to be great, and unfortunately, was just not. So if you have that playing near you, and that sounds somewhat intriguing to you as a premise, I would say you should still probably stay away from it and not waste your time. I was really frustrated because the Lauren Michaels documentary is also out in theaters right now, and I was between seeing the Christophers and that, and I went with the Christophers because of the tried and true loyalty that I have to Steven Soderbergh, and unfortunately, it did not pay off in this instance. Curious to hear what you think about this movie, Fugi, but hopefully is a complete opposite of what we're talking about in regards to boring and not a whole lot going on. I know you had a chance right before we started recording to see The Mummy. What did you think of it?
So I'm gonna say it was boring and not much going on.
Oh,
um, it was pretty boring. I mean, Trey mentioned it earlier. When you have a 2 hour and 15-minute runtime for a horror movie, you have to be really careful with that. Hereditary is probably the biggest example of a long horror movie. Midsummer, same thing. I think I'm seeing a common theme on who can do that and who can't. Um, you have to be able to draw someone in quickly and keep them there in a horror. This to me, I don't think either of you have seen either of these. Actually, no. Did you watch Wolfman?
yes,
So
yes,
that's a comparison I give, and I'm gonna say Exorcist Believer. Don't think you saw that one.
definitely did not.
That is the biggest comparison to this because I'm like everyone is taking on the like child possession type route. But what I'm confused about, this isn't really a spoiler. She's just possessed in this movie. The fact that it's called The Mummy is kind of weird to me because she doesn't even look like a mummy. And like when I think of a mummy, I'm thinking like, has the not toilet paper, but like, wrapped in the old thing, but she doesn't look like that. And it obviously it's Egyptian, so like she is the mummy. But it's just it was old or not old. It was boring because it took so long to get into it. And then when we got there, it was just kind of like we've seen this before. But I will say Lee Cronin is really weird. Have you seen Evil Dead Rise, Aaron?
I have not. No.
So he's really, I would say he's known for gore and kind of just makes you uncomfortable in really weird ways. The way he was making me uncomfortable in this is not something I would recommend directors do. Because he was like saying, like, I'm going to say this line, and this is not a spoiler. Like, this was a line from the movie. Hey, baby brother, want to come undress me? Now, that was said from a 12-year-old girl to her little brother. That's a weird line.
Was this when she was the titular mummy, or what was the context here?
Yeah, she was a mummy, but she wasn't meaning like take off my wrapping. It's just like there was weird comments that just they made me uncomfortable. I will fully admit. And then there's certain
Was it
scenes.
trying to be to whenever I hear that, it makes me think of like Megan. Like, was that the tone it was going for?
No,
Like it was
no,
trying to be like
no.
dark, scary. It wasn't
Yeah,
trying
and
to be funny.
it definitely was because again, there were scenes that kind of they're unsettling. I viewed this movie. I kind of saw like the trailer. I saw a little bit of the trailer. I was like, oh, this looks pretty scary, and it's gonna creep me out a little bit because possession and all that stuff is if you do it right is really well. And Evil Dead Rise did it extremely well. Um, but I think he kind of just it felt uninspired if we're being honest. which is really sad because I loved Evil Dead Rise. Like, I know if I watched that, it would go up. But did you have something?
When you say that it took a while to get going, like, is there just a lot of setup in the story before they get to the point that the girl was actually the
Eh,
mummy, or what?
Well, yes, in a way, it's what I say. It's not. It's when you look at the genre, it's mystery horror. Now, it's kind of similar to the Conjurings as well. The Conjurings are very like mystery esque in a way. Like you're trying to figure out like
Yeah,
obviously it's demon possession, but like where did it all start from and that. Very similar
right.
to that, but just kind of nowhere near the level of those, which the Conjurings have obviously gone down over the years, and this one felt very similar to the newest Conjuring. And I think it's kind of becoming a problem in modern horror where you kind of aren't interested in the beginning, and then you kind of throw so much in that last act to like draw me in. And
Yeah,
when a movie's already been 2 hours, you can't just throw everything in the last 15 minutes. It doesn't.
yeah.
And like obviously horror, it happens all at night. So the nights, are gonna be bad. The days are usually boring. And then again, I'm huge on endings. They kind of lost me in the end. I really did not like the ending of this movie, like at all. There was a certain point where I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a great ending, and then they didn't do it, which sucked. But it's definitely not bad. Lee Cronin knows what he's doing. I just don't think this was the project for him, if that makes
I
sense.
saw I saw a someone I follow on Letterboxd. Their review said, at least we know who directed the movie," or something like that. I don't understand the whole Lee Cronin's The Mummy thing. That just feels weird that that's like
I
the title
was
for the movie.
I was gonna bring that up because I don't think he has the. I'm not gonna say he doesn't have the right. He doesn't have
Well,
the.
he doesn't have the credibility.
He's done.
Like,
I've seen one movie, and I'm not sure he's done many more directed movies before Evil Dead Rise. So, and especially putting your name on like a movie like The Mummy. There's been mummy movies made. It just
right.
seems weird. Unless you were really confident in your work that you did with this, which maybe he was. And I do. A lot of people, it's an interesting curve on like Letterboxd. Like a lot of people are really liking it, and a lot of people aren't. But if you don't like body horror, I definitely would stay away from this one. I don't know if that's either your guys' cup of tea, but
I kind of got the vibes that that was the way it was going in the trailer. But like, back to this. Let's not move off this for a second. Back to this whole Lee Cronin's The Mummy thing. Even someone like Steven Spielberg, like Disclosure Day is coming out in a few weeks. It's not called Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day.
well, the one
It's
thing,
just called Disclosure Day.
the one I'm thinking of like best, like usually people refer to The Thing as John Carpenter's The Thing. He has credibility. He can do that. Like if Christopher Nolan was like, it's gonna be Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. That's
Yeah, I
fine.
would. Yeah, I
Because
would be fine with that
at
too.
some point in your career, you kind of gain that. If Steven Spielberg wanted to do that, I'd be all for it. But yeah, I don't know why he did that, and it's really weird. But
I'm pulling up his credits here because we need to determine if we're missing something in regards. All right, these are his directorial credits. So he 2023 Evil Dead Rise that you mentioned. Before that, 2019 movie The Hole in the Ground. In 2016, Midnight's Past Midnight, 4.9 on IMDb. And then before that, it's just a bunch of short films. So he has well, actually, that Minutes Past Midnight, that was just a segment. So he's really only directed. This is his third movie. The rest are all
yeah,
short films.
in my opinion, the comparison I give for director, I think he's very Sam Raimi esque. I think
That makes sense.
you could attest for like Send Help. And I mean, Sam Raimi did the Evil Dead movies, and he kind of took that from him and did Evil Dead Rise. So I think he's definitely taken inspiration from him, but I don't think this one was for him. It was still I had fun with it. It was enjoyable. I wasn't scared once, but I was like uneasy watching certain sequences.
Well, that's a question that I had. Like, are mummies scary?
That's what I'm saying. This wasn't a mummy. This was a possessed girl. Like if you were to look up the girl in the Exorcist Believer movie and then look up this girl, they look the exact same. Now, like the history from her being possessed came from a mummy. She is a mummy, but I don't think mummies are very scary. So that's where it was an interesting movie.
Yeah, I guess maybe the idea of a mummy is scary, but I don't really know if in practicality it being portrayed on screen is that scary to me, but uh I'm not a mummy expert in any regard.
Did you
So,
see who the main guy in the Mummy is? Lee Cronin's the Mummy. Sorry.
thank you for not that Brendan Fraser is not in the movie, right?
No, that's the old Mummy.
Yeah.
Like a long
Okay.
time
No,
ago.
I don't know who the
It
main
was
person is then.
the boyfriend in Midsummer. I don't
Wait,
remember.
really?
Yeah, I don't know his actor's name.
The
But yeah,
red-haired guy in Midsommar? Does he have red hair?
I think he was blonde.
Wait, no. Does he have blonde or he marries the redhead girl?
Yeah, yeah, but he is an interesting actor. He kind of plays like that same character that he did in that movie. He just like looks confused the whole time. It was funny though. But I laughed at certain points. A lot of people are having fun with the movie, but I don't think that's a compliment to give to a horror movie, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
Like, oh
it's
yeah, I
just
had fun. It was a funny movie. That seems like kind of a disservice to horror.
you haven't seen the original ones at all, have you?
No,
I'm
I
just wondering
don't
how
think
it
these will make me want to watch that. But
Yeah.
also, I can't. This I would assume like The Exorcist for example. Obviously, the original Exorcist is amazing, but the new one is terrible. But
Does it leave up like is it trying to tee up like a franchise or does it leave any potential for that or not?
no, I don't think so. No, I don't think it's gonna make a lot of money anyway. I think he should stick to Evil Dead, but I think he already kind of got booted from that, sadly. So I don't know where he's gonna go after this, but I think
Well,
I would like to see Lee Cronin make an original movie without like because this isn't IP, this is original, but like don't take like a Mummy, don't take Evil Dead, like write your own, like a Zach Kreger, like make your own thing because I think he could make something really good if done right. I guess.
I would point you towards 2019's The Hole in the Ground.
I've seen that before because I'm pretty sure Rainn Wilson is in that.
Unless there's another Hole in the Ground
Okay, then
movie, I
that is
don't
a
think that
different
he
movie
is.
I'm thinking of.
The plot of The Hole in the Ground is it's a very demonic looking child on the poster. A single mother living in the Irish countryside with her son begins to suspect he may not be her son at all. Interesting. And fears his increasingly disturbing behavior is linked to a mysterious sinkhole in the forest behind their house.
I was thinking of Don't Tell a Soul, and it looks like someone fell in a hole in this movie. So that's where I got that. But Trey, I
Not
know
to be
you were
confused with the Disney movie Holes. Great
exactly
banger of a film.
Trey. I know you were looking to see this. Does that turn you off at all by seeing this?
It's kind of what I expected. I mean, what really turned me off of it at first was the longer runtime. I was kind of picturing like an hour 45 for this movie. Did it feel, I know you said it took a while to get in. It did feel long. Okay.
And like, I even think when I'm saying it took long to get into, like, when you think about it realistically, like, it gets into it pretty fast, but like, you have to have something in the middle of the movie that like takes off. It doesn't really ever do that. It kind of, I guess it really just stays afloat the entire time till the last 15 minutes. So, and they framed it as a mystery movie and it really wasn't a mystery. But yeah, I'll give it it was above mid. It's not a mid movie. You'll have fun.
Wait, so it's like a
it's like
it's
a
like a
2.5,
okay.
3. It might be a 2.5. I don't know. But this is
Okay.
this is the best movie I reviewed. So, I guess we're getting some positive vibes now.
Well, since we're staying on sort of the dark and twisted vibes for the moment, I'll go ahead and shout out, which is one of, if not the best movie that I've seen over the course of the past 2 weeks. And that is Daniel Goldhaber's new film, Faces of Death. It stars how does he pronounce it? Dacre Montgomery, and obviously have Stranger Things fame, and then Barbie Ferreira, who I have not seen in too many things. I know she's obviously famous for Euphoria, but was also in a small indie movie last year that I don't feel like a lot of people saw called Bob Trevino Likes This. And just gave a very, very touching performance in that film. This movie, Faces of Death, is very, very different than that movie. And it follows the Barbie Ferrer character. She's essentially a content moderator at a website. And while she is doing this content moderation job, she comes across a series of these violent videos that seem to be reproducing death scenes from a film. Now, where this movie gets really smart is that the videos that she comes across that look like they're being reproduced are essentially clips from the movie that this movie is sort of a remake reboot of, which is the Faces of Death movie from I think maybe the 80s or 90s. So there was an original movie called Faces of Death, and in this movie, when she's kind of clicking through and seeing on her content moderation job, there's essentially someone out in the world who you learn very quickly is the Montgomery character. And he is essentially trying to recreate videos from this original movie from the 80s, 90s, Faces of Death. Now, this Faces of Death movie, I was not super familiar with it from the 80s and 90s, but apparently it's kind of notorious in horror circles. It's a movie that is very odd whenever you see clips of it, but a lot of people like it so much because they don't know if it is an actual movie, if it's actually a snuff film. Like it kind of verges then teeters on that line of like, is it real? Is it not real? So to use that in this sort of reboot of the franchise in some ways, it's it's a tense movie. It's a great thriller. It's got some just really, really, really like shocking gore, violence, but it's all of those things, and there's a lot of like really smart and clever ideas in it as well. So there's some great commentary on just our society addicted to screens and like what violence looks like in a world where we can access all these things in our pockets. Just a It's just a really smart, really fun movie, and I'm excited to see what Goldhaber does going forward. His movie from a few years ago called How to Blow Up a Pipeline was one of my favorites from that year. And it's just the kind of movie that I think should be coming out in the spring. And I hope you get a chance to see it someday, Fugi, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely. I think we talked about it last episode. I think we had brought it up. I had never really heard of it without research, and it was getting really good reviews. I wanted to see it, so I'm glad you didn't really go into spoilers with that one. Because probably when it gets on streaming, I'll definitely check that one out. But how did Montgomery? Was he
He
good?
was he was excellent.
I really hope
Just
he gets
a
a chance to lead something.
Yeah, I mean, he effectively is a co-lead of this movie, as far as screen time goes. But he just has quite the screen presence for playing sort of that menacing figure. And Barbie Ferreira too. Like I said, I had seen her work before previously, but this is the kind of performance where I'm curious your thoughts on this, but I feel like whenever you get somebody that's actually a really good actor or actress in a kind of horror type movie, it's when you can really kind of tell good acting versus bad acting in that regard. And to me, that was one of my big takeaways, kind of walking away from this. That it's just awesome to see someone like that in a movie like
I
this.
feel like horror is the genre that can really showcase your acting abilities, if we're being honest. Like,
For sure.
I
Yeah.
think one of the most underrated actresses is like Micah Monroe. I think she
Yeah.
is, and like Long Legs and It Follows, both insane. Now, I haven't seen Reminders
I
of
was gonna
Him,
say,
but
there's a glaring example this year that she may not be the best actress on the planet, but I hear you.
yeah. So I think that is because I'm sure she's gonna, because she left Euphoria because she wasn't a main enough character. she didn't want to be a side. Like she wanted to do her own thing, which I kind of respect because she looks like she's
Oh,
going
she
after.
left. She left Euphoria. I didn't
Yeah, no,
realize that.
she's not on that anymore. I think she left after season 1 or season 2 because she was a very side character, but she kind of like I guess said like I want to do my own thing, and the what was it? The Bob Trevino likes it. Like
Yeah.
that seems like a very indie movie, but she got to lead it. So I mean, I respect that she's out there trying to get lead stuff. She's
Yeah.
becoming a bigger name, I think.
Well, and the other thing too, I know I mentioned this movie earlier, but the other Chandler Levick movie that's out this weekend, that Mile End Kicks movie, she is the star of that movie. So it's the movie about sort of a 24-year-old music critic kind of coming up in the world. And it sounds like she gives a really great performance in that as well. So I'm excited about kind of looking ahead for her, what is possible. And Montgomery, I do kind of hope he doesn't get kind of typecast into a certain type of role.
Uh,
But between him and between the director, like just a lot to be excited about with Faces of Death.
he was in or not Transformer. He was in Power Rangers, so he kind of escaped the villain for one movie at least.
Was he a Power Ranger in
He
Power
he
Rangers?
he was a Power Ranger. Don't know what color, but he was in the
I was
movie.
gonna say that matters what color he was. Did you see that movie?
No, but I just remember because it was like when season 4 of Stranger Things was coming out, like that was his next project, and
Okay.
it got terrible reviews, and then he kind of didn't do anything after that. So I'm glad to see he got something at least to get his name back out there. I think he was struggling a little bit.
Yeah, it's an exciting one for me. I would certainly, if you are anywhere remotely interested in kind of the thriller horror genre, certainly worth checking out in that regard. Another movie that came out last week, and I don't really want to spend too much time on this because it was another disappointing one for me, but I did get a chance to see You, Me, and Tuscany a couple days ago, which was the big release, not this weekend, but the weekend before that. And this is the new rom com starring Halle Bailey and Regé-Jean Page. The film is directed by Kat Corio. And I did not look at this prior to the film, but as I was walking out of the movie, I was like, what else has she directed? And I saw that she directed the miniseries She-Hulk, and also the Jennifer Lopez, Owen Wilson rom com from a few years ago, Marry Me. So had I seen that, it may have set up my expectations a little bit more for what this movie was going to be. I've said it on episodes before. I'll say it till the end of till the day I die. I love the rom com genre. It's probably my favorite genre of movie. There is no one that will give a movie more grace than I will when it comes to this genre. I know there are tropes, there are kind of stereotypical plots that you're just going to see over and over again in this genre. But the one thing to me that is most paramount than anything in a rom com is that the leads have to have chemistry. They have to have chemistry. And I am very saddened to report that Bailey and Paige do not have chemistry whatsoever. Movie's just silly. It's goofy. I never feel this way when I'm in a movie theater, but like I wanted to pull out my phone and just like scroll Twitter. And to me, that's like the biggest like sin you could even say of something you would want to do in a movie theater. And I was just so uninterested by all of this. The characters feel paper thin. It's just so ridiculous of a setup and a premise that the whole thing is just not really believable in any way. And it's disappointing because we needed a moment for rom-coms to have a good moment in the theaters, and unfortunately, this was just not it.
Yeah, I feel like I can just go and chime in and act like I've seen the movie too, because I think, I saw the trailer, so I know everything that's going on. But when I have a question, when in the movie does Halle Bailey or Barry is in the room and the other guy walks in? Does that ring a bell?
When she's in the room and the
Because
other guy walks
the
in.
premise, obviously, the movie is like she meet
Yeah.
that one guy, fakes all that. When does the
Right.
fake guy, when does he walk in and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
Oh, it's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like,
Probably
why?
like probably like 30 minutes left in the movie, maybe
So,
something like
okay.
that.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
remember seeing that in the trail. I'm like, why do we need to even show that? Because, like, we knew he was going to that, but, like, that's just a thing you
Yeah.
don't need to show.
Yeah. And even the like setup in the whole like, oh, I meet this person for one night and now I'm gonna run off to Tuscany and be in his house and all that. Like it was just silly. And I don't say that as someone who looks down on the genre. That's what's kind of annoying about it, is that I am normally the complete opposite with this kind of thing. And it's just not good. And it'll inevitably come to streaming at some point, and I'm sure it will do numbers the same way that Marry Me did whenever it hit streaming, but
But
we need higher expectations.
Marry Me had Owen Wilson and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
That I mean, that's they can pull some weight there. I don't know if these people can pull that, but maybe, hopefully, maybe, I don't know.
Also, an equally not good movie. In my
Marry Me was
opinion.
not a
But
bad movie. It was a good movie.
you saw Marry
I
Me?
did, yeah, I liked it. It was fun. That's just like a cheesy rom-com used. That probably was the same level of this one, though, for being honest.
I was gonna say,
but
maybe if you're saying you liked Marry Me, then
I
maybe
like
you
Owen
should.
Wilson, so I'll defend it.
I do too. Yeah, and I think Marry Me was probably better than this. But I think Rajiv Page, like I think he's somebody that has a lot of promise. But man, I mean, talk about getting cast in a nothing part. Just disappointing. In my mind. All right. Real quickly here, two movies that I would recommend checking out in addition to Faces of Death. One of which, and you may have seen that I logged this on Letterboxd, Fugi, but I'm interested to talk to you about it. It's this movie that was a fall festival movie last year, kind of went around the rounds, and then I think got like a really small theatrical release in maybe February, March this year, but just recently hit VOD, and it's called Redux. And essentially, it's this small indie movie that's about this mom who is time traveling through parallel universes, repeatedly killing her daughter's murderer. And obviously, as you can imagine, she just sort of becomes consumed by vengeance, and she starts to lose her humanity as the course of she's doing this. But it's almost like a Groundhog's Day, Palm Springs sort of situation where she just kind of keeps repeating this. It's not the same day because they're in different universes, but she just keeps traveling from universe to universe, trying to kill in every universe the guy who killed her daughter. And I just thought it was incredibly well done. You can tell that it's a really small budget, but the way that the directors, who are actually brothers, the McManus brothers, the things that they do to make the money go as far as possible on screen, the way that the characters are compelling. Actually, their sister is the star of the film, and she's incredible. I don't know how she's not been in like 100 movies up to this point. Her name's Michaela McManus. Just one of those, like, honestly, if I had to say, it's probably like the hidden gem of the year for me so far. More people need to see this movie. It's a great watch.
I think that's a like, you obviously said it's different than, like, Groundhog Day and Palm Springs, but it's interesting that, like, idea of, like, kinda doing the same thing over and over again is such an interesting concept, but I feel like it works almost every time. Like, it is hard to I don't know any, because, like, Happy Death Day is another one that does that. I really like that movie. It's just interesting
Yeah,
that I haven't seen one that's, like, failed when doing that.
there was one. What was that movie from a few years ago that I saw that was not super great, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. You're right; it's a pretty good, tried and true. And so, I guess what made this one so exciting is the fact that because Palm Springs, Groundhog Day, very much like romantic kind of comedy sort of movies. But to do this one in the sense of like it being more genre and it being more action and revenge thriller type thing within that movie is just super exciting. And there's a young actress, I've never seen her in anything. Her name's Stella Marcus. She's also excellent in this movie. you want just kind of a fun thriller to rent on VOD, certainly would recommend to anyone to check this one out. You need to see this one at some point, Fugi, and when you do, maybe we'll have a broader conversation about it.
I have never heard of this movie, but that definitely, from the description and like everything you've said, definitely makes me want to watch that because I do like movies like that.
Last movie I'm going to recommend is a doc that hit Netflix a few weeks ago, and it's called Inside the Manosphere. This is Louis Theroux's new sort of documentary. Essentially, all the movie it's just him going around and just interviewing sort of all of these TikTokers and podcasters that are sort of in what you would consider the manosphere. I know we've heard that term like a lot, and I don't even think I really understood exactly what that meant, but it's essentially all of these TikTokers whose content is sort of geared to like 13, 14-year-old boys. And I love the documentary so much because it's so just fly on the wall. Like all of these people, they think that he's going to come in and do this hit piece on them. And literally all he's doing is just kind of observing what they're doing. And the things that these people are saying and putting out on the internet and sort of implanting into the minds of young boys is just remarkably concerning. Like if you have a young son or maybe even daughter too, I don't know if they're into that type of thing, but who watches this type of content on TikTok. Like I didn't even know that this was a corner of the internet that was out there. And I've never even heard of some of these people. Like one of the people that's sort of the center of this documentary, his name is like HS Tiki Talkie or something like that. And again, I'm thankfully not on that corner of the internet. I'm on the corners of the internet that are talking about like casting news for the upcoming Lord of the Rings movies. But I think it's just a really important documentary because I think it gives insight into what's going on in the culture and really what the next generation are being raised on. And so if you have kids that are of that age range or you're just interested in that in general, would highly recommend checking this out because it's kind of concerning the things that are going on out in the broader world, and really what people are getting put in their heads. I know you're not a documentary person, Fugi, but you would find this one interesting if you ever have a second to check it out.
What was it called again? I think
I think it's called Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere. So we sort of got a Lee Cronin situation where he's putting his name in front of it.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with these people doing that, but they've got a. I guess with the documentary, I think it's a little different. I think that's.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like for him, he is he's sort of a renowned journalist in Britain and has sort of taken down a lot of people with documentaries and with just generally good writing. So it makes a little bit more sense for someone like him to do. But yeah, if you need something on Netflix to watch this weekend or whenever that is not Roommates or not one of these other not great streaming movies, would highly recommend checking that one out. Any other new movies that you've seen recently, Fugi, whether old or new, that you want to shout out?
No, I have not been watching any movies recently, sadly.
You've been on a TV kick, right?
I have been on a TV kick, which I think I'm TV'd out. So I think I'm back on the movie grind. It's kind of sad because I watched Beef season 1 to prepare for season 2, but now I'm TV'd out and I don't want to watch season 2. So that kind of sucks. But
it's kind of unfortunate that you haven't watched season 2 yet because I saw the trailer on Netflix, I guess, yesterday. And I just want to know, like, do I have to watch season 1 to understand season 2?
You don't.
I don't. It's
No.
completely
It's
separate.
no, it's like White Lotus where it's a new story every time.
Because that cast for season 2,
I know.
Holy moly.
Well, it's because, I mean, like, do you remember what the cast should have been? What the original casting was?
I don't think so,
it was even more insane than it is. It was, I think it was Anne Hathaway was one of the couple girls and Jake Gyllenhaal was the guy.
Oh, wow.
And then they dropped out and I think Jake Gyllenhaal started doing the M. Night movie or whatever, but...
Well, I would put Oscar Isaac up there with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I don't think, I'm pretty sure Oscar was already there. I think they were taking Melton and... Because Charles Melton wasn't in the original cast. I don't think.
But they're supposed to be a younger couple, though, aren't they? I guess Jake is maybe same close to the
I
same
don't
age
know,
as
but
him.
anyway, Jake is bigger than Oscar Isaac, and Anne
I
Hathaway.
mean, in your
is,
mind, this is just so the world knows. This is Jake Gyllenhaal's #1 fan over here on the podcast, which is nothing wrong with. I like Jake Gyllenhaal too, but
I just think if you were to ask a common person, they would know who Jake Gyllenhaal is over Oscar Isaac.
maybe, yeah, probably, yeah, that would make
But
sense. Definitely over Charles Mountain.
yeah. But yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully you can catch up on some more movies before next time. Next week, don't know 100% what we're doing, but we definitely will be at least touching on the new Michael Jackson movie. Pun was not intended with the touching on there, but we will we will see you next week. In the meantime, hope you watch a lot of great films.